More and more men are now giving up on marriage. Men are now finding marriage undesirable and are waiting until later in life to get married, if at all. A Catholic pastor recently revealed that he's only performing 5 marriages now a year, down from 35 over 25 years ago. He also said that the average age of his engaged couples has increased from 24 to 31 years of age. And the pastor, Charles Pope, says he's not alone. Other pastors have had similar experiences. A Pew Research study also revealed that barely half of adults now in the U.S. are married, which is a record low. Since 1960, the percentage of adults that are married in the U.S. has decreased from 72% down to 51%. But why are men now shying away from marriage and even relationships with women in general? Well, Pastor Pope pointed out the obvious. Radical feminism is driving a wedge between men and women, destroying marriage in the process. He said, quote, "Most men I know perceive that they are often considered by the wider culture as deficient, even depraved. The men are stupid commercials and sitcoms abound. Men are often presented as buffoons who need women and children to set them straight on the simplest of things." And that's very true. Just watch this AT&T home automation commercial, for example, in which the man of the house is a complete idiot, and his wife has to fix his every mistake with a smartphone. A YouTube commenter was spot on with this assessment of the commercial. He said, quote, "Just another not too subtle presentation of female superiority orchestrated by the social engineers who are guiding us towards a technocratic future ruled by the elite. It's part of their plan to grant women a dominant role because that in turn allows control of the male gender, inasmuch as the men will follow wherever the women might lead." So it's not all that surprising then that all the social engineering telling women that they don't need men has led to a complete and utter decline in marriages, and this is by design. The political elite, particularly the Rockefellers, hijacked the feminist movement back in the mid-20th century to not only subjugate men, but to also make women more dependent on the government and to break up the nuclear family model, all of which are occurring today. Think about it this way, people generally hold more loyalty to their own families than they do to the government. And as the government expands at the expense of individual liberties, politicians need to compensate for this by scamming the public into submission. But how do they do that? By encouraging the public to feel a deeper connection to politicians such as Obama, for example, than they do to their own families. And the best way for the elite to accomplish this is through feminism, to destroy the family, which also allows government to reflect blame for oppressing women because the feminists will simply blame the men instead. And because feminism gets women working in the workplace faster, it also gets children into public schools at an earlier age, where they can begin being indoctrinated into big government talking points, such as...
So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
Still don't believe me?
Those in government would like to dumb down the population to be obedient. It's been that way for a long, long time. Over the many centuries, it's usually by threats and intimidation. Now we do the threats and intimidation, but we also try to bribe people to go along. And as long as they do what we tell them, as long as the people do what they're told to do, then they believe they can get better treatment from the government.
Pastor Pope also had this to say. Schools dominated by a feminist ideology have made a pathology of the normal behavior of boys, which includes competition and roughhousing. They seek to feminize boys, going even so far as to encourage medication for them. Most of these boys merely have to spit in vinegar that was once considered normal, needing to be curbed somewhat rather than suppressed with drugs. So now we have boys that are completely clueless about how to act around girls and lack the confidence to even approach them. I mean, it's not really that surprising when you have public schools telling boys that there's no such thing as boy and girl anymore. It's just we're all one sex, we're all purple penguins, and that playing tag and roughhousing are all bad and being masculine is bad. I mean, is it really that surprising then that boys are not growing up to become men? Just think of all the non-feminist women nowadays who complain that they cannot find real men who are comfortable in their masculinity. They have feminism to blame for that because men are now so scared of being labeled rapists that they shy away from showing any sexual interest in a woman. And also you have all these yes means yes sexual consent laws, which place the burden of proof on men to show that the sexual activity was consensual, meaning that men are now considered rapists until proven innocent. It's interesting that Pastor Pope came to a similar conclusion on his own. Referring to an article on feminism, he writes, "Feminism has emboldened many women to direct suspicious anger towards men and generally presume that they have bad or evil motives. but has also caused a lot of men to draw back on the healthy confidence that once bolstered them to go out and seek a wife and to take a leadership role in the community, the church, and the family. And also, men are finding themselves at a complete disadvantage when it comes to divorce court, which is also causing a chilling effect on marriage. Charles Wickius of Return of Kings spells it out quite eloquently. He writes, "It should be obvious to anybody with a brain capable of seeing beyond its own self that men are routinely and systematically discriminated against in divorce court. Perhaps one of the greatest privileges a modern woman enjoys is the ability to clean her husband's emotional and financial clock in divorce court. With the establishment bankrolling and supporting feminism to fuel hostility between men and women, and with public schools telling young boys that masculinity is bad and there's no such thing as genders anymore, just purple penguins, is it really that surprising then that fewer men are getting married? First you get the women, then you got the children, so follow the men," according to a quote often attributed to Adolf Hitler. Now, Paul Joseph Watson filmed an excellent report on why young men are giving up on women, so check it out. And also read the book Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Huxley was an establishment insider, and in his 1932 novel, he anticipated a future society that is centrally controlled by a powerful government through the use of various techniques such as destruction of the family, which is precisely what's going on today. Huxley was simply revealing the game plan the establishment was planning on rolling out in the coming decades after his novel was published, and he was spot on. All their ties with the past, friends, families, traditional decencies, and pieties have been severed. He wrote about the exploited public in his book. They are new men and women recreated in the image of their new god, the government, and totally dedicated to his service. So, to put it bluntly, marriage and the traditional family are being systematically destroyed to make room for a more tyrannical government the world has yet to see. Once again, this is Kit Daniels with Infowars.com, and subscribe to the channel Resistance News.
Your liver can be full of fatty deposits, built-up toxins, and even dangerous objects known as liver stones. We worked with the top developers in the field of detox to take tried and true herbs and other compounds known to safely cleanse the liver and fused it with the latest research and technological development on concentrating these ingredients to give you the maximum effect. Liver Shield is the only liver support product on the market that uses a patented Spigirex blend of powerful organic herbs that support detoxification. And when you visit InfoWarsLife.com, see the instructional video on how to do a 6-day liver detox. This isn't a game, and let me tell you, the results are dramatic. Liver Shield is totally organic and made of the safest high-quality herbs. But that said, you need to consult your physician before you do the full detox. Liver Shield can also be used daily by itself for overall upkeep of the liver. Secure your Liver Shield today exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com for the lowest price available. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.